Here are some things to just rattle off just to start about testosterone propionate. Number one, generally regarded as less aromatizable by bodybuilders, people that use it for TRT. Number two, was used way before testosterone cypionate or enanthate came on the scene. In fact, testosterone propionate was like mainstay for TRT before longer esters were invented. Number three, peaks super quickly. Okay, so like if you plot out testosterone propionate and how it peaks on steroid plotter, you're going to see that the peak is actually vertical. Whereas longer esters like Cyp and enanthate, they kind of go like this, or just like slowly kind of peaking over time. And then you reach your peak, weeks or something after you first start a Cyp protocol. With prop, you peak right away. And the peak is actually plotted vertically. It's actually pretty crazy. It's a lot easier to dial in and takes less time to dial in. I mean, you could find your dose in a week because you're dosing every day, right? Or every other day, usually every day. Likely comes with greater DHT conversion, just like testosterone cream. May not be to the extent of cream, but it's certainly more DHT than usual. It's easier to control estrogen. People don't recognize that aromatase itself, these aromatase enzymes, they have like a stopping point. They have a peak. You don't just aromatize forever. Your body isn't equipped to continue aromatizing forever into, 400 picograms per milliliter of estradiol. So ultimately, you have this major peak in testosterone, but the conversion to estrogen, it just doesn't work in a linear manner. It is far superior, both in myself, in my clients, and in anecdotals around the web for libido and erection function on TRT. And there's a lot of different reasons for that, and we'll break it down. It is less suppressive to the hypothalamus pituitary testicular axis. People are going to notice going on prop, you need less HCG to keep the testicles as full. Some people don't need any HCG. Testicles still stay full. It's easy to inject on an insulin pen. Okay, it's like if you don't want to go deep intramuscular because you're doing it every day, I understand. Use a slim pen, do shallow IM and the delt or something if you can get it in there. Literally, the markers are the milligrams you're taking, because testosterone propionate comes in 100 milligram per milliliter vial. So if you're at the 50 mark on an insulin syringe, that's literally 50 milligrams. A lot of other stuff. I figured I'd take this Monday to do some content specifically on a full breakdown, mostly positives, some of the caveats of testosterone propionate. Into content, look, Cortex Labs is a performance optimization and a hormone consulting company for men. We got a range of products ranging from nootropic stacks that I built to coaching on TRT, hormone optimization, sexual dysfunction, libido optimization, dopamine restoration, to digital guides on TRT nootropics. Most popular products: Cortex nootropic stack, Torque nootropic stack, and of course, coaching with me. You can hire me in under a minute at livecortex.com. So testosterone propionate was a testosterone ester that was used before we invented testosterone cypionate and testosterone enanthate. It was actually mainstay for TRT, and the protocol was 50 milligrams 3 times a week. Really, the reason that longer esters were invented was for convenience. If we could elongate the half-life and make it so that people can pin less frequently, well, then that makes it a lot more convenient and sort of practical for people doing TRT. By the way, these days, which I don't usually suggest, people are pinning long esters daily anyway. You might as well be pinning prop, because likely you're going to get a lot better results. Let's talk about the half-life. Okay, so the half-life is documented as 18 to 19 hours. For people, it's going to be different, right? You inject in a depot, and metabolic factors decide how long it takes for you to metabolize that testosterone. If you're injecting sub-Q, if you're injecting intramuscular, if you're injecting shallow intramuscular, all these are different from one another. So that half-life is going to kind of differ between people, but generally you're looking at 20 hours. The way that I look at it when I dose prop is 20 hours later, half of that drug is out of my system. And that's usually the case in my blood work. Whereas your testosterone cypionate or your testosterone enanthate, you're looking at between a 5 and 8 day half-life, which again, as we'll get to, it makes dialing in very difficult. You don't even know where you're at any given time throughout the effect duration window of your testosterone. Libido's good on day 3. Well, what the fuck's happening there? It's okay, but then it drops for a couple of days, and then maybe it's good toward the end of the cycle there. With testosterone propionate, if you're injecting daily, well, daily. You know daily what's going on. You can make adjustments daily. Testosterone propionate is generally regarded as having less water retention. Okay, so for people with super moon face and ultra bloat on long esters, which I know, it happens to the best of us, and you don't like that, and you'd like to try prop to get better libido, erections, better control over your protocol kind of on a micro capacity, yeah, just go with prop. You'll have a lot less water retention, no question about it. When I'm on prop and I'm on strictly prop, I'm a lot leaner looking. I just don't retain water at some significant quantity. Now, Prop is generally less anabolic, and what it looks like is this has both to do with the lack of estrogen sticking around, right? Because ultimately estradiol is anabolic, but importantly, you get less nitrogen retention when you're injecting prop versus Cypionate. Interestingly, just as an anecdotal that I'll throw out there, like 200 milligrams of testosterone Cypionate injected at once intramuscularly makes me more anabolic than 30 milligrams a day of prop. 30 milligrams a day is 210 milligrams. Even if I injected 40 milligrams a day, which would be 280 milligrams a week of prop, I'd be close to as anabolic as 200 milligrams of SIP a week. Isn't that interesting? But people are going to find if they want a certain degree of anabolism with testosterone propionate, that you might need to dose it a little higher, which usually means or may mean for you that you have to control the estrogen a little bit, which I'm going to get to. Let's talk about how it peaks. All right, so on steroid plotter here, I'm just plotting out 50 milligrams every other day, which is a protocol that may or may not work for you. I mean, people are going to be different, but if you look at how this drug peaks, here you're at your ultimate trough at 969 nanograms per deciliter of total testosterone. Then you inject, and within, again, that 20-hour half-life, maybe 24-hour half-life for people at 29 September. So the trough was 28 September 02 in the morning, right? At 29 September 01 in the morning. So basically 23 hours later in this particular case, you've peaked to 1,744 nanograms per deciliter. And if you look at it, like, let's just change this a little bit, just like for the fuck of it, just to show you how powerful like the peaks are. We'll do 70 milligrams every 3 days. Like, again, you're down at 576 on the ultimate trough here, but then you just shoot up. I mean, you literally just shoot up to what is 2,000 nanograms per deciliter on your peak. Now, one of the benefits of this is, like, you'll often find that people with hematocrit problems on longer esters don't have hematocrit problems on prop. Yeah. Because you don't have steady state androgens. You have a peak and then you start troughing. The fact that the testosterone is not consistently around at high levels ultimately ends up meaning less hematocrit, lower hematocrit, or controlled hematocrit. You'd be hard pressed to find a guy in a regular dose of prop that's hematocrit goes anywhere close to over range. So if you're one of those people that requires, because bodies are different, androgen receptor density is different, androgen receptor responsiveness is different between people for whatever reason. Like Joe might need to peak at 2,000. Joe might need to peak at 3,000 nanograms per deciliter, but then go down to something like 1,000 or 1,200 or something. And then, Joe gets all the androgenic benefits, the DHT benefits, the sexual benefits, the energy benefits, the gym benefits, the libido benefits, the confidence benefits. So with prop, you really get to like choose your dose and plot it out on steroid plotter if you can. Get an accurate reading of where you're going to go in terms of nanograms per deciliter, but also very quickly, because of how it doesn't take a long time to dial in, figure out where you need to be in terms of peak, in terms of trough, which takes me to my next major point. Yeah, it's a lot easier to dial in and it takes a lot less time. Think about how long it takes for you to dial in a Cypionate protocol. Frankly, the way that it operates, and that it may take 4 to 6 weeks to actually reach the level that, is going to be consistent where you're at your steady state of, 1,000 when you peak and 600 when you trough, or 1,500 when you peak and 900 when you trough. Like, just for shits and giggles here, like, let's look at 150 milligrams of testosterone Cypionate per week. So we'll do every 7 days and we'll run that. Like, you start off, you're peaking at 545 and you're peaking 545 nanograms per deciliter higher than whatever your baseline was. But it isn't until, you really only start reaching your peak right around 6 September, and you had injected first in this case the 22nd of fucking July. That's a month and whatever, 10 days. Like, that's again almost 6 weeks. That's the problem with long esters for certain people. If you want to make adjustments very, very quickly, prop is the way. There's no question about it. All right, let's talk about estrogen control. And I actually have some labs to sort of show you where I was at very, very high levels of testosterone and where the estrogen went, where you would think that based on my testosterone levels at the time that the estrogen would be like 100, 120 picograms per milliliter. All right, so we're going to get into my labs just to show you these are my labs. This is my quest. That's my name. All right, so this was a peak. I know these numbers look fucking ridiculous. This is a peak of total testosterone and free testosterone after 3 pumps of cream and 50 milligrams of testosterone propionate. All right, so this is relevant, but not entirely relevant. But again, I was somewhat close to this. We'll plot that out in just a second. All right. So that's where on 3 pumps of cream, 50 milligrams of prop at the peak of both of them, where my numbers were. Thereafter, though, for a good stint, I was running 70 milligrams of testosterone propionate. Okay. So we're going to look at estradiol on 70 milligrams testosterone propionate every other day. All right. Propionate. And we got that. All right. Check. Cool. So here's the peak, right? My peak here is 2,400 nanograms per deciliter. Okay, so it's about 800 nanograms per deciliter less than 32 or where I was at with cream and prop. But this is still a very high peak. Like, what would you think the estradiol would be on a 2,400 nanograms per deciliter peak of total testosterone, right? If your test was that high, where do you think estrogen would go? You would think 80, 90, 100. I've seen 120 picograms per milliliter on very high doses of long esters. Right around that time, so let's go to my estrogen labs right here. Around that time, I did run estradiol and it was at 63. 63. That was it. And this was with very minimal estrogen control, a little bit of zinc and a little bit of calcium D-glucarate. It was 63. No AIs. No AIs in the picture at this particular time. You will aromatize less on testosterone propionate. Is that good or bad? It depends. Some people need estrogen for libido. Other people need just adequate estrogen, 30s, 40s. Some people require 20 to 25 for libido. It could be, really great for your libido because estrogen gets in your Goldilocks zone and then you're able to have libido and obviously erections because, estrogen above a certain range is going to cause erectile issues for a good degree of guys. Or for as much as you're peaking on testosterone, you might not have enough estrogen, right? This is kind of why, for me personally, I've got to go above 20 milligrams of test prop because the estrogen's a little too low for the ratio for me. Okay, so generally speaking, because people aromatize differently, you're going to have less aromatization generally. You'll have a lot less estrogen just sticking around on testosterone propionate. That's actually probably one of the reasons why it's less suppressive to the hypothalamus pituitary testicular axis, which we're going to get to here in a sec, because estrogen ultimately controls that. The higher the estrogen, the more the block on luteinizing hormone release from the pituitary, because estrogen's high enough, which the pituitary thinks, okay, if estrogen's high enough, well, that must mean testosterone is high enough. All right, next thing about testosterone propionate is you are likely to have more DHT conversion. This may be the reason, in addition to better ratios and a better estrogen reading, that people get better libido on testosterone propionate and better erections. DHT, if you haven't really experimented, but you've heard me talk a lot about DHT, the one thing I'll say about taking Proviron, I've got some Primabol and Enanthate that I'll be running at some point in the future. I just kind of want to tread lightly. Cream plus Proviron. Anybody that's run Primo, Masteron, Proviron with TRT is that the erections are always out of control. They're very fucking good. DHT, in addition to having adequate estrogen and adequate testosterone, like that balance, in the regimen, and in addition to, of course, like having DHEA and enough of the neurosteroids, like you're going to have better sexual function. I've yet to see it. I've yet to see it be the case that DHT is like pretty up there with adequate test and estrogen in the range for that person, and them not have like just rocking morning wood and just boners like at will and high libido. Likely you're going to have a greater DHT conversion with testosterone propionate, and it's difficult to say why that happens. But again, if there's a little less aromatization, a lot less typically than longer esters, well, then that test is going to metabolize likely more into DHT. On just prop now, I largely ran prop. I had to fucking pin a mill a sip last Monday, and now that's pretty much out of my system now, so I'm happy about that to take a trip. But largely, I've been running prop. I notice let's just say I notice all the DHT feels with testosterone propionate. So I can't prove that prop turns into DHT or converts to DHT more so than other esters, but for me, it seems to be the case. Right, next, let's talk about how it is far superior in a good degree of reports over longer esters like Cyp and Enanthate for libido and erections for guys on TRT. I mean, if you go to the testosterone subreddit or the TRT subreddit, the anecdotals are everywhere. First thread, dialing in on propionate. Guy goes, for anyone who's used propionate, whatever. He asks a bunch of questions. The importance is in the responses here. First guy, I love prop. I switched about 2 months ago from Empower. Zero pain at all, and acne, brain fog, and waking up sweaty every day has disappeared. Okay, those are usually estrogen out of balance or hormone fluctuation problems. He goes, my mood, sleep, and sex drive have all improved. What do you know? Changed nothing on my protocol except switching from Cyp to prop. The one, test prop experiences, where I think probably the most important part was, this guy had run everything. He'd run Cypionate HCG, gotten his E2 sensitive at 28 picograms per milliliter, which is like, I don't know, for a good degree of my people and a good degree of people in general, if their test isn't super high, that's kind of the Goldilocks zone. So like you would think everything would function well, but yet it didn't. Guy was on 250 IU HCG twice a week. So we kept that, started with 10 milligrams test prop every day, sub Q. Okay, that's a pretty low dose of prop. It was nothing for a few weeks. Then all of a sudden I became horny again. He goes, it took me by surprise. I haven't been horny in a few years. I'm now having sex with my wife once a week, trying to get her up to twice a week. Having small kids puts a damper on the bedroom activities. Okay, so here's a guy that on Cypionate, what was the Cypionate? 22 milligrams of Cyp every other day. Okay, so this guy was on 11 milligrams of Cypionate per day, basically. He goes to ultimately what is a lower dose of prop, 10 milligrams a day. horny again. You know, what do you know? After years of not feeling that way. Again, this is why I push these shorter esters, these shorter testosterone modalities out there to people. I need to give people options, because if you try it and it fucking works for you and it fixes your TRT protocol, well, then you're not, then your life is substantially better. Then your dick works. Then your libido is good. Then your ratios are good. Then you feel better. You feel more energized. You're more confident. All these benefits from prop when people try it, if they respond well to it, because not everybody does. And there are plenty of more anecdotals. This guy goes 10 milligrams a day at test prop tier injected first thing upon waking every day. It's been far superior to test sip in every way, shape, or form. The vial lasts longer too. Here's one. For those of you seriously struggling with sexual function on longer esters, because again, they're just notoriously hard to fucking dial in. They shut you down more, they've really shut you down more, which we're going to get to. This guy goes, I use 8 milligrams daily. Hurts a little bit in the beginning, but as your injection spots get used to it, it doesn't hurt anymore. I haven't really seen any side effects. Libido is great. I woke up today with morning wood that lasted 15 fucking minutes, bro. Even after peeing and making my breakfast. How many times have you seen yourself? Have you heard anecdotals? Have you read anecdotals? Maybe you're experiencing yourself of people with lack of morning wood on testosterone. You're on testosterone replacement therapy. You're upregulating dopamine synthesis, dopamine projection, nitric oxide, DHT conversion. These are all pro-erectile things. You know, if you're on testosterone and don't have erections, you might want to consider testosterone propionate. A lot of guys get everything back when they go on prop. All right, now I'm going to take us to a paper that is titled Short-Acting Testosterone, More Physiologic, wherein they basically go on to say that shorter acting or fast acting but short duration testosterone modalities suppress the hypothalamus pituitary testicular axis a lot less than longer esters. Another paper that reinforces this, titled Short-Acting Testosterone Appears to Have Lesser Effect on Male Reproductive Potential Compared to Long-Acting Testosterone. And this is a mouse study. They go, long-acting exogenous testosterone appeared to impair male reproductive capacity and luteinizing hormone levels when compared to short-acting testosterone. Short-acting testosterone appears to cause less luteinizing hormone suppression. What they were using for the short ester was testosterone propionate, and what they were using for the long ester the long administration method was testosterone pellets. Now, here's my anecdotal on that, right? Because studies are one thing, but, you know, is it real in real people? I can tell you this. On SIP, right, or Enanthate, because I've ran them both. Regardless of the HCG dose, the testicles ascend. They don't go all the way up into my body, but they ascend upwards, indicating more of a shutdown. Again, you're bottomed out kind of regardless on testosterone. Although I haven't run luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone on just prop, I got to give it more time to be on prop and maybe even remove the HCG in order to really prove that. But on SIP, regardless of the dose, you know, the testicles ascend. You know, they don't go all the way. As long as you get HCG, they're not going to go up in your body and be uncomfortable and start hurting and all that kind of shit. They're not going to atrophy significantly, but they sit higher. They sit higher. They always sit higher on SIP or Enanthate. With prop and a little bit of HCG, I'm talking about 250 IU twice a week, sometimes 250 IU just once a week, but that's the same amount of HCG as I would use, as I was using on a longer ester. Like, the testicles don't ascend at all. They don't ascend at all. They're just normal. They look like when I was natural. Big, full, hanging low. Again, it's actually a fucking substantial difference. And, you know, I recently, for a trip that I had to take last Monday throughout the last week, I had to pin a mill of sips and I bring all my prop with me. So I just pinned a fucking mill. It was super easy and I was out of there. And the whole last week, even leading into this weekend, the testicles had ascended, man. I mean, nothing changed on the HCG protocol. It's just that longer esters are more suppressive to the hypothalamus pituitary testicular axis. This is true. So if DHEA, if progesterone, if allopregnanolone, cortisol are things that you might need more of to dial in on TRT, you're ultimately likely going to recover more of them via less suppression of the HPTA. There actually are anecdotals out there where a guy recovered his progesterone, which was bottomed out, by just switching to a shorter ester. No HCG change, no change in anything else, just went on a shorter ester, and then he started making progesterone again. And previous to that, he wasn't making any of it. And then lastly, as I alluded to before, pros or just kind of things to note about testosterone propionate. It's easy to inject with an insulin pen. Yeah, I mean, if you got a 100 unit insulin syringe and you like to inject either sub-Q or shallow or intramuscular, well then whatever your dose is on prop, it's just the unit number on the insulin syringe. So, you know, if you want to dose 25 milligrams of prop, you just pull the insulin syringe to the 25 unit mark and you've got 25 milligrams, because that's a milliliter insulin syringe. And it's usually 100 units. And testosterone propionate comes in 100 milligrams per milliliter. So that whole milliliter, if you fill the whole milliliter up, that's 100 milligrams. The whole syringe, if you fill that whole syringe, it's 100 milligrams of testosterone propionate. But if you're running, I don't know, let's call it 50 every other day. then you just pull it to 50 and you're at 50 milligrams. You know, it's not double where it is with 200 milligram per milliliter sip, where 50 on an insulin syringe is actually 100 milligrams. 50 on an insulin syringe with testosterone propionate, 100 unit insulin syringe is 50 milligrams. 20 is 20, 10 is 10, 8 is 8, right? 70 is 70, 100 is 100. You know, it's a lot easier to pin in that regard if you like using slim pins and going in shallow intramuscular or doing sub-Q. All right, let's talk about protocols. So, I mean, I have protocols from clients. There's 10 milligrams a day. There's 15 milligrams a day. There's 25 milligrams a day. There's 50 milligrams a day. There's 50 milligrams every other day. There's 60 milligrams every other day. I got a guy that pins prop 100 milligrams every other day, and that's just what works for him for TRT. So the point of this video isn't to say that you should go on prop. If you're dialed in on SIP or Enanthate or Sustanon or fucking pellets or nasal spray or oral or whatever, you cream, please stay there. You know, that's the one thing I want to stress to everybody. Whatever your protocol is, stay there. If you've got to run primo with your test for estrogen control and you're running SIP and you feel great, stay there. Got to run Masteron, you got to run Proviron, you know, for estrogen control and more DHT. Like whatever it is that you're doing where you're good, please stay there. But again, prop tends to be the ester that for people that are having trouble with TRT and they've done micro injections, they've gone down to 80 milligrams a week, you know, they've done bolus injections, they've done twice a week injections. They just can't find their sweet spot, or managing the estrogen is difficult because AIs are difficult to dial in. Switch to prop. You know, if you've got Defy Medical as a provider, they have propionate. There are other providers out there, I imagine. The TRT Nation has propionate. You know, your doctor can prescribe you testosterone propionate. You just have to ask for it. Test Prop is out there. And yes, we built longer esters to be more convenient. But what we didn't think about when we did that is, well, maybe shorter esters are better for people. It's less suppression, it's better estrogen control, it's higher peaks. It may mean better libido and erections, better confidence, better energy, all these really, really positive things. You're going to find in the comment section of this video, and probably in this particular video, but the comment section of this channel, that a lot of guys have taken my advice, or at least watched my video, because I'm not giving you advice. I'm just saying this may work. This is my experience. You know, here's the literature on it. Went on prop and had a much better experience. You might find that too. I did a large post in Reddit titled "Test Prop Gave Me My Libido and Erections Back After Cypionate Couldn't." Now that was just a catchy title. Cypionate can. It's just got to be dosed correctly. For me, 70 milligrams every fourth day was actually the best for libido and erection. 200 milligrams once a week was actually fine. All that stuff was good this last week. But, you know, I did basically an entire breakdown with literature showing some of the stuff that I just talked about. And a lot of people were like, test prop works for me too. But I think it influenced a lot of people to say, hey, maybe I should just give a short ester a try. Maybe I should just try it, right? I mean, if you're going to be on testosterone for the rest of your life and you want to dial in, you want to feel good, you want to have good dick function and fucking libido, and you don't want side effects and problems and hematocrit's too high or whatever, like, it just may be something for you to try. Again, a lot of people here on this channel that have watched my content regarding prop have come back to say, they're all over the comments in these videos, I'm doing better on prop. Thank you so much for talking about it. Yeah, I'm running prop. I mean, I've been running prop. I'm going to continue running prop. I don't see a need to do anything else. I have prop protocols that work, and I honestly love how I feel. And look, guys, if you're on TRT and you're just having a problem one way or the other, whether it's with SIP, Enanthate, with libido, with erections, with both, with energy, with strength, with side effects, hire me. I mean, that's one of the main things I do. I've been doing this for years. I know what to do in what situations. You can hire me for a TRT protocol optimization consultation, where we get on a call, we figure out your situation. I will design your protocol moving forward. If you need some other work done in addition to TRT, or just long-standing hormone optimization with TRT, add-ons, HRT plus, whatever, you can hire me for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. I've got a 1-month option. I got a bunch of different coaching options at livecortex.com, and you can hire me relatively quickly. It actually takes just about a minute. Cortex Stack is a stack that I built. It is a nootropic, stimulant, energy, focus, and flow stack. All right, take 2 capsules. You're going to be feeling pretty awesome in about 20 minutes. Buy it at livecortex.com. The link is down in the description of this video. Torque Stack the same, but Torque is more of a motivation inducing, high energy inducing. Again, people replace their Adderall, people replace their modafinil with Torque, and they end up feeling better and functioning really fucking awesomely. All right, you can get that at livecortex.com. The links for both of our products are down in the description of this video. Support us as a channel. Go buy the nootropic stacks, guys. You're gonna love them. All right, it's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you, brother. Hope you had a great weekend. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you have a great week. Much more content coming soon, so look forward to that. Sub to the channel if you haven't. Comment down below. All right, man, I'll talk to you soon.